Yeah, we're live.
Yeah, goddamn right, we're live. You know what? All
You're a
right, let
little
me
faint, but
let me
yeah, I
get
think I
let me
can hear
get
you.
you on the screen. Let me get you on the screen real quick, and we have like 6 minutes to talk. That's fine. Listen, Angry Joe only had 6 minutes to talk to you, and look what happened. You made that kid a star. You remember that interview you did with Angry Joe? He was pissed.
Yeah, yeah, of course. My
He
good
got
buddy
so.
Angry Joe. That was
Oh
VGA
yeah,
like 2010 or something like that,
yeah.
I think.
It was a while ago. All right, let me get you on the screen here, bud. The thing you have to understand about me, Jeff, is I'm kind of a
High pressure here, Jaffe.
no. Because do you ever watch The Good Doctor? I'm like that guy. I'm like very high functioning.
You're a one-man band. I know you do it all yourself.
I actually have I finally broke down and hired a wonderful producer. Sorry, Ricardo, who I used to write for.
Wow.
Yeah, I know.
Gavin Games is. I was going to ask you how Gavin Games is doing. You got an assistant. I feel like you're
Well, he's a
rolling.
producer. He's a producer. But all right,
Right.
Geoff Keighley is here, everybody. Fuck me. I apologize. Let's get started. He only has so much time. Okay. You're in New York. Obviously, we're just gonna go. I'm not even gonna no foreplay, Jeff. We're going right in. We're going deep and hard.
Right.
Okay.
I miss you, L. Jaffe. It's been far too long.
I miss you too. Let me ask you a question. So this is a role reversal. You used to interview me. We've probably done 10, 12, 15 interviews over the years. How was I? When every time the interview was done, was I your favorite or were you like, Jesus fucking Christ, somebody get me Cliff Bleszinski?
No, you were great. I remember one interview I did with you, and the camera light went off, and you turned to me and you said, "Was that good?" And what I loved about you is we did an interview. You wanted to make sure that you were controversial, it was good, and you were just checking at the end of the interview.
Oh, I wanted to make sure it was controversial. I wanted to be controversial.
Yeah, I feel like you always like to sort of, stir the pot a little bit when you were doing stuff. And we loved it. You were great TV, right? I mean, we would interview you for honestly, I miss interviewing you because we need you to be making games. When are we getting the next Jaffe game?
I love doing this. I mean, let me ask you a question. Most people in your business, not most, but a lot of them have moved from journalism to making games. And you've been with a couple others, which I think is, admirable because it means that, you're on your path. You just keep building this legacy and this thing. I mean, are you broadcast all the way and you've never had a dream to make a game, meaningful dream, or this is it? This is your thing?
Yeah, I never really have wanted to make a game. Like when I started out as a kid, I was a volunteer beta tester for a lot of the old adventure games from Sierra.
Oh, really?
Okay. I got to be exposed to what it took to make a game. So yeah, when I was in high school, I beta tested one of the first games was Gabriel Knight. I did, and a lot of the adventure games from Sierra, and I got exposed to kind of what it took to make a game. And yeah, even though I've been around a lot of these studios and have done stories about the making of games, yeah, I've never really had the itch to go off and make my own game. And you're right, it's different than a lot of journalists. Like when I used to write for GameSpot back in college, I remember most of the guys there, their dream was to go off and one day make a game. And yeah, it's just never been something for me I thought about. I think the best contribution I can make to the industry is doing what I'm doing now.
No, you're
working with all the companies across the industry.
I mean, it's insane. Let me ask you this. You are probably more famous and well known than almost anybody who makes games. I mean, do you walk around to people? Don't give me that fucking face. You know it's true, right? Because I mean, you're the face. You're the face of the games industry. Right. So do you walk around and get recognized a lot or not really? You're not like, you don't have that kind of notoriety or fame.
You're breaking up a little bit. I don't know why.
Is that better? Better.
I feel like your mic is coming maybe off your computer or something, but yeah, it was fine. And then it started to get a little bit choppy.
All right.
I sort of heard your question.
The question was, how about that? Is that better?
Sorry, I can't really hear you, but yeah, I think you said something about how I'm as well known as a lot of game creators when I walk around.
Yeah. Do people recognize you?
Yeah. No, not really. I mean, it's like once in a while, a TSA gal recognized me. I was at the Zelda launch last week. And of course, in like a concentrated group of people with a bunch of gamers, people will recognize me. But no, I'm lucky enough that I can sort of go around and mind my business. And, whenever I meet people, I love meeting them because they're usually people that really love the things we do and are passionate about it. So I love meeting fans. But yeah, it's not like I'll be at a concert tonight in New York and like I doubt anyone will recognize me.
Who are you going to see?
I'm seeing a Blink-182 show tonight.
Okay. All right. Well, there you go. Aren't they
shutting down? Coachella. They were great. They came back Coachella, and yeah, I'll be at that show tonight.
You're a big concert guy. Can you hear me? You can hear me now?
Yeah, I hear you. Yeah, a little bit better now.
All right.
Yeah, I love live music. I mean, I love kind of all the arts. And one of the things I always think about with games is how can we sort of combine the arts in more ways. And yeah, I some people will say, oh, you have too many celebrities or music things on your shows, and it's like I actually love the idea of kind of all these worlds coming together and gaming being at the center of popular culture. So I love, I mean, just as much as I love playing games, I love going to live theater or music or other kind of experiential stuff that's kind of fun for me. Yeah, when you live games for your whole life, it's like it's part of your life, but it's also I'd be inspired by other things.
One day we will sit with an interview like this and we will shoot the shit, because I think that will be fun. But I know the audience will kill me if I don't get to real questions. So here we go. Forgive me, but I know you're short for time.
Again. I don't know is your. It feels like the mic's not picking you up, or it's like it's very choppy.
Is the gain better now?
Like the sound source. Can you change maybe the sound source on Zoom?
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, it might be Zoom, motherfucker. Who can I steal from the Game Awards so I can get some producing?
You may go to Zoom and select your microphone, because I feel like it was fine for a bit, but now it sort of feels like it's choppy, and it's like you're obviously not on a cell phone or anything, but it feels like you're like losing signal or something. It's hard to hear you.
All right, let's do it.
I'm sorry, Jaffe.
It's life, baby. It's no big deal. Okay, let's fix the mic.
It feels like I'm not hearing through your mic. I feel like it's picking up off your computer or something, like there's another source that's picking up your voice.
Okay, I got it. I think I got it. That's no better though, correct? That's still shitty.
Yeah, I can tell you're saying something, but it's hard to hear what you're saying.
I'm
sure it's live producer's nightmare. This is when in 2020, when I was doing Summer Game Fest from home. This is the things I was terrified of, because I was streaming, reveals of Crash 4 or the DualSense, and I was streaming it all off my home computer to the internet to like hundreds of thousands of people, and I was like, oh my god, is it ever going to crash? Is it ever not going to work? Luckily
it never was a problem. Okay, let's try this. Add source.
Unless I can maybe hear you, like I'm gonna go to the YouTube event.
No, don't do that. Don't do that. It'll be terrible.
That'll be delayed, right?
Yeah. I try.
Well, hello to all 399 of you watching. I hope you guys are doing well. I can maybe take some questions from chat.
Yes, please, Jeffrey. I would appreciate that. Thank you, bud.
Yeah, if you guys have questions in chat, I can answer the questions from chat. See what you guys happening. Jaffe usually never has issues like this. Please be patient with him. I'm patient with Jaffe.
Oh man, that's nice.
He's gonna figure it out. Yeah, if you guys have questions, I'm happy to answer some. His volume got much lower, my volume. What was the hardest Game Awards announcement to keep a secret? Asked Matt. Oh wow. I mean, they've all been sort of different. I mean, the Xbox Series X reveal was that was a big hardware announcement, so that was hard to keep secret. We actually had Phil Spencer. He rehearsed with a fake script that day. He announced on stage that Game Pass was going free, and it was a totally fake script and everything like that. But basically, we never had him actually rehearse with the real announcement, because we were feared that was going to leak at some point. But yeah, there've been things like that. Joker coming to Super Smash Brothers. That was another big announcement with Nintendo that we had to be very secretive about how we do it. But yeah, I mean, our team is really, I mean, our collateral really are our secrets and our our announcements. So everyone's very careful about that, and I'm proud that we've never really had a leak on our show, and we're extremely careful about how we do things. So we don't like to talk publicly about some of our processes. But yeah, we try and keep things secret, and we've had a pretty good record.
Is that any better?
Any update on? Let me try, Jaffe.
Is that better?
Yeah, maybe it's a little bit better. Yeah.
You're probably getting an echo though.
You found they're distant though.
Yeah. I think, is that better? Yeah. I know what it. Okay. Let me get rid of the echo, because that's coming from somewhere. Now we're in business. We have minutes. Okay, so I'm just going to run through, and I'm going to turn off the echo. I'm ready, baby. I want to do it. I want to do it. There. Okay. Test. Can you hear me now? Oh, well, hopefully if this is how I make my living, I'm fucked. No, well, it's how I want to. I'm doing design consulting, and I'm working with some really talented companies. I'm working with a company in Poland. I'm working on a game right now called Trick Shot, which is on Steam Sport Fest right now. But it's consulting. Yeah, have you played it? It's really good. People are reaching out to me, and I'm taking jobs and stuff. But my passion is this. And I'll tell you what it is, Bree. Well, I'll tell you later. People are going to kill me. So let's just go. Okay. Because you're pressed for time, baby. Come on now. All right. So let's go. Writer's strike. Is it affecting the Summer Game Fest, or is it affecting the Game Awards? Because you're a union show, right? Or no?
Things like that. Like we've done things on adaptations of shows. So it may have an impact. I don't think it's affecting any of our content in Summer Game Fest currently. Game Awards is too hard to say. There's also a SAG strike that could happen this summer. That certainly would affect things as well.
If you have a guy who's SAG or a woman who's SAG and they're supposed to come out on stage and give an award, does that count? Or like, can they do public appearances, or that's okay?
No, I actually don't know, but I would imagine if we're in a strike mode, typically actors, like I was here in New York this week, was the upfronts where all the TV networks kind of present their upcoming slates, and none of them had any talent come out for their projects because there were pickets, and actors don't want to cross picket lines. So I would imagine, if there was a SAG strike, people probably wouldn't necessarily want to come out and necessarily support projects. But I'm not sure how it's going to ultimately play out, but it could affect things down the road. But I don't think it's, at least as far as I know today, it's not going to have a huge impact on Summer Game Fest in June.
And then you tweeted out, I mean, that was intentional, right? E3's canceled March 30th, the very day you're like, hey, let's celebrate video games Summer Game Fest. I mean, was that, people kind of gave you a little bit of shit, but I thought it was pretty astute and pretty political and pretty powerful. I mean, was that, you were waiting in the wings for that, or it was just serendipity?
No, I mean, the thing is, when I tweeted that, I had already tweeted, many times before that Summer Game Fest was coming. I was just basically reminding people that Summer Game Fest was happening. And I mean, obviously I'm paying attention to the news, and it was important for me to let people know that there's still going to be activity in the summer, right? And I think a lot of people see, E3's canceled, like, oh my God, what does this mean? And, the reality is that, E3 sort of, I mean, I'd known for months that E3 probably wasn't happening this year, and we had a pretty good Summer Game Fest that had been put together, and it was just basically it was a reminder to let people know, like, hey, there is still going to be news this summer. Lots of companies are going to be sharing things, and it's like a bummer, right? I mean, I went to every physical E3 that existed.
I did too.
And it was like really sad. So, but and the reason we had to build Summer Game Fest is the writing was on the wall that what happened with E3. We sort of saw that coming for a number of years. And I always like to be, thinking of how do we evolve and how do we build something that can sort of stand the test of time. So, I mean, we were reacting to the E3 news, and it was just a bummer because, look, on my end, we're living through a year of people saying like, oh, E3's back. Why are you bothering to do Summer Game Fest? We announced last summer that we were doing Summer Game Fest again this year. So, our show and what we're doing with Summer Game Fest, the cancellation of E3 really had zero impact on it because we already knew what we were doing. And I think some people assumed E3's canceled, so you're picking up all these games or all this other content. And it's not the case because it didn't really change our show at all.
Right. Are you eventually planning? I mean, I did the core experience for the Game Awards. It was either last year or the year before, which was like metaverse and virtual reality and stuff. And I've heard you talk about wanting to sort of expand the shows into something more interactive for the fans. Are you thinking in the future that that's where you're going, or are you going to pretty much become PAX E3 now that they're out of the picture? Like, do you think you could do it built off the bones of Summer Game Fest, or do you think Summer Game Fest is what it is and maybe it'll go virtual as well in a bigger way, but you're not planning on taking over the convention center and having... Like, is that the plan? It kind of sometimes seems, because you've got gamer days, right? Like 2 days or 3 days where people can show up who were invited. I wasn't invited, but people can show up who were invited, and they can play games. What's the future for Summer Games Fest?
Well, the honest answer is I don't know. I think we're evolving it every year based on feedback from our partners. And one of the things I'm proud of with Summer Game Fest is it's changed every year, right? I mean, it started in 2020 with me broadcasting from a spare bedroom,
right,
to a virtual show last year. Then we added in play days. Last year, this year, we're doing the show live in front of fans at the YouTube Theater, which I'm really excited about. But I think the germ of your question is, are we going to do a big, take over the convention center with a bunch of booths from publishers and playable games in the future? I don't know, but I don't think so. I think the world has changed significantly from the old days of E3.
Mm-hmm.
And, now with things like Steam Next Fest, and you were talking about Sports Fest and demos and cloud, I think the days of people lining up for 5 hours to, spend 10 minutes playing a game at a booth are, rapidly going away. Right. And I mean, it's sure they're still around, but I think down the road, I always think about like, what's the next thing, right? Like,
so do you think virtual then? I mean, you did this core thing.
Yeah.
Is that, how was that? Was it successful? Sure. Was it like, I mean, what do you think?
Well, I mean, it was successful. And then I think we're learning, right? And I'm always thinking about like, what's the next format? And I will say this, that I think, Game Awards right now, I'm very conscious that it's effectively a television show built in a theater with a shiny black floor and people walking out, that's streamed on Twitch and YouTube.
Right.
And I think, in the next decade, I do think there's going to be an opportunity for us to take the Game Awards model and bring it sort of into, a gaming world, or use gaming technology to create something really interesting. And, I still think will always be a Twitch or YouTube version of the show, but I get excited about the idea of something interactive where imagine we all log in. It's sort of like the thing I did, I guess it was 3 or 4 years ago with Fortnite, where I interviewed JJ Abrams. And Fortnite, it was like 10 million people there all together, and I was talking to JJ, and we were doing this in Unreal. So I think it's going to be cool when we can get to a point with Game Awards where everyone can gather, fire up your PlayStation or your Xbox or your Switch or your PC, join some app or world, and we're going to take you through these games, and I'm going to reveal your next epic game, and a portal's going to open, and we're going to jump through it, and we're going to get to play a playable trailer for 5 minutes of this,
I mean, that's the fantasy. Is that every day? Are you working towards that, or is it like that's in the future, we have to wait for things to catch up, or is that really you're willing that into existence?
Yeah, a little bit of, I'm hoping for that to happen. As you know, those things, it takes, partnership with the game creators, right? Sure. And, I talk about that, and it's great, but then the teams are like, well, we got to make our game, and we don't have time to make a 5-minute, amazing vertical slice that's going to run an Unreal Engine. So the thing we always face with studios is that it's hard for them to make trailers. It's hard for them to make games. Like one of the fear I live with for every show is that we're not going to have the content we want because I don't make games. We talked at the beginning, like I don't make them. So it's like, when people go into Summer Game Fest and they're like, well, why wasn't this game there? Why didn't you have that? The show kind of sucked this year. And it's like, well, that's kind of the slate of games that's available to us. And so, I love the idea of some, megapolis of, all these amazing games that are coming together, and you get to play all these demos, but I got to convince studios to be able to make that stuff. So I think it's on the roadmap, and I will hopefully will that into existence.
I hope
it's not,
you will. It sounds fucking awesome.
Not this year. It's not this year, but I think down the road.
Well, let's talk about this year. June 8th is Summer Games Fest. We're all excited. Obviously, that is going to be the big
Thank you for the plug.
press. That is going to be like, you need the plug, but it's exciting. We watch it. I get high and stream it every year, every single fucking year. Oh, I love it so much.
Are you doing a co-stream this year?
Not officially. I don't know what that means, but I mean, I'm streaming it and I'm smoking pot and we're talking about it while you're live. Is that co-streaming?
Well, yeah, it's co-streaming. Yeah, you're co-streaming. Yeah. You're taking the content, and your Gavin Games fan base is
you
watching.
Goddamn right, Geoff Keighley. So listen, though, yours going to be the best show. Microsoft Xbox showcases, those are coming up. Which do you think? It goes Summer Games Fest. What do you think gamers should be looking forward to more? Xbox's showcase or Sony's? Based on what you know, and you know a lot.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I think they're both going to be pretty good.
Jeffrey, come on now. Come on now.
No, I really... It's hard to say, because again, it's like what I will say is I think this kind of competitive nature of sort of like, which one is better than the other, I'm not sure that's particularly constructive. I mean, I think the thing I would say is that Sony's in a really good position right now. Microsoft, I think, has a lot of things to answer right at their event. So I think there's more pressure for them, especially coming after Redfall. about sort of what the slate is. I think they, knowing, as you said, I think they've got good stuff. I think Sony, they're doing a showcase next week, not a state of play, which I think indicates that it's probably going to be, bigger than a state of play. So I expect some good stuff there. And we have our events. And the thing that's interesting about the summer is that, all these events sort of, we all work together in a way, right? And, when I do Game Awards, it's kind of everyone comes to the Game Awards and does something here. It's like, Sony's going to have a great show. Xbox is going to have a great show. Hopefully we have a good show. So I don't know. And you said which one's going to be better. I also think it's like, the thing I think that the opportunity that these companies have is to reach beyond just their core. And, I think that's the thing, especially Xbox. I think the opportunity for them is like, how do we, if they satisfy the existing Xbox fan base, or how do they invite more people into their ecosystem? And, the thing I think that's the opportunity now is that it's not sort of a zero-sum game. It's like, I think there's an opportunity to get people that play on a different platform to also pick up your platform if they're great games. So yeah, I think this summer will be I think it's going to be everyone's going to have a solid show. Microsoft does basically one show a year. So, they basically wait all year to show everything to people in June. So, last year their show was pretty good. I expect it'll be, as good this year. There'll be a lot of stuff to share. Of course, the question always will be like, when is that stuff going to
ship?
And I think Sony, is I think people are really curious because beyond sort of Spider-Man this fall, I don't think people really know a lot about what's coming when from PlayStation. Right. They've indicated they are going to talk more about what the first party group is working on. So
and Sony's coming to Summer Game Fest, right? So PlayStation will have presence at your show as well. Can you give? Isn't that correct? I believe I read that.
Yeah, so Summer Game Fest has, Xbox is a part of it as well. Right. I would say that just to set expectations, I think, PlayStation, Xbox are doing, their big events, and you would imagine, most of their news will sort of be at those events. So, but yeah, we've got, and it's all kind of part of this season where, all these events all kind of come together as Summer Game Fest. But yeah, we've got a lot of good stuff that'll be part of, we do a show, as you mentioned, the June 8th show will be, I think it'll be, what I love about our show, honestly, is that it's cross industry. It's not about, what platform you play on. It's really important for me that we have stuff that is going to, we'll have stuff for PlayStation fans, for Xbox fans, for Nintendo fans. Like it'll all be kind of part of.
Can you give us just a little tease of something about? Like, you're not gonna lift up the kimono or open the kimono, but give me something. Yeah. Give me something, Geoff. What can you leak to us? That
I don't know. I'll tell you something interesting. I'll tell you about is we are having some conversations about the Twisted Metal show.
Yeah, I assume there would be a trailer at your show for that.
We're talking about what we could do, but are you excited about the Twisted Metal show?
I'm excited about it because the people making it worked on, and I've had about 4 conversations with them tops. And I like the people a lot over at PlayStation Productions.
I heard we talked about this. They made you an offer for a cameo and you turned them down.
I didn't turn them down. It was COVID and I didn't want to fly to New Orleans. If they get a second season, I will do it, but I wasn't going to get on a fucking airplane with COVID going on. But
what was your role going to be?
I think I was going to be a corpse in a freezer. Which I enjoyed. Maybe Sweet Tooth had killed me or something. And you, by the way, people don't know this because you blink and you miss it, but Jeff's in the Twisted Metal canon as well. You have a character in Twisted Metal 2012. It's brilliant. That's right. But anyway,
we filmed it down in San Diego.
We did. But no, I'm looking forward to it. They did Cobra Kai, which I love. They did Deadpool. They did Zombieland. So, and they're really good guys. The people at PlayStation Productions are great. So I'm looking forward to it, but I don't know. It could be shit. But I don't think it will be. The trailer was kind of fun, had a good kind of self-awareness about it. Let me ask you this. There's the when you were still with Spike and you did the thing with Joel McHale. This is what I think is you're a real enigma, and I'm not fucking with you. You're a real enigma because you have to be this guy that is that gin. You have to be this guy who
vodka.
Who is you've really got to keep in a lot of ways your opinions to yourself, your political views, your gaming views, in order to be this kind of Sweden of video games, right? And I'm not saying that disrespectfully. I mean that is your bread and butter, is that everybody is comfortable talking to Geoff Keighley and sharing with Geoff Keighley. Joel McHale's on the show with you and everybody's seen it. It was the VGAs or whatever it was. I'm assuming VGX. I'm assuming that you went home that night because you looked really mad. And I was always wondering, was that a shtick? Like you're the straight man, he's the funny man, and that was planned? Or were you as mad as you looked when you went home that night and that was the catalyst to say, fuck this shit, I'm going out on my own?
Well, it's a longer answer, but yeah, I mean, that was, I was disappointed, obviously, with that show. And the thing is, Joel actually is a friend of mine. And like, the thing is, Joel McHale there's Joel McHale, the person, and there's Joel McHale, sort of the character, right? And you remember back then he was on Talk Soup. And he was just kind of this, snarky kind of guy. And that was just his vibe. So the unfortunate thing was Joel, in between the bits and in the commercials, he would always, he loves games and he'd be talking about these games. And when he went back onto a script that his writers did, it was sort of, derogatory, I would say, to sort of the gaming. So it was kind of unfortunate. And yeah, I was just bummed overall about that show. And it wasn't nothing to do really with Joel. I think I was bummed that, we had taken the VGAs, which was a pretty big spectacle of a show, and that got reduced to being sort of, produced in a warehouse in downtown LA. And that was really, I mean, that show really wasn't really going to happen. And what the inside story is that I was under contract still with Spike, and I wasn't going to be able to sort of do my own thing that year. And they had kind of decided we weren't going to do VGAs. And I thought it was really important that year to still do some kind of show. It's a year that I think that was the first Last of Us had come out that year, and GTA, and there were a bunch of big games. I'm like, we still need to have some kind of awards. Titanfall might have been that year too. Yeah. And then, so I was just sort of like, we have to do something. And I kind of really pushed Spike to sort of still do something at a lower budget. And that's what we ended up doing. But yeah, it was sort of a frustrating year overall. So, Joel was kind of at the end of the story, but it was a difficult year. And then, yeah, that kind of prompted me the next year to go out on my own and say, I don't ever want to sort of have to go through that again. And, thanks to, a lot of support from, I remember at the after party actually for that VGX show, Sam Hauser from Rockstar came up to me and said, hey, Geoff, we really believe that it's important that something like this still exists in the industry, and we'll support you wherever.
Even though they never show up for it. I mean, right?
Sam was there. No, we did. Sam was there that year.
I've never seen them come on stage to get an award, the Hauser brothers. But okay, cool. So you went home that night though and said, I'm doing this. So it was your money is the myth. Is that correct? You put up your own cash for the very first show. And I mean, I'm assuming it was terrifying. And it worked out brilliantly to the point that the Oscars are now ripping you off. And I want to ask you about that real quick. But I mean, what was the backup plan? Were you just like, if this doesn't work, I'm fucked, or I'll just go work at a video game website? Or did you even worry about a plan B? Or were you just like, fuck it, I'm in, let's go?
No, I mean, obviously it was a longer process to kind of put it together, but I the next year I kind of started talking to all the game companies, and Rockstar was there early on. PlayStation, to their credit, was very early on and supportive of the idea of me doing something, so much so that Sony decided to do the first PlayStation experience that December alongside the Game Awards in Vegas.
Oh, and, that's right.
So yeah, the team at PlayStation was incredibly supportive, and then I had to convince Xbox to support it. I had to go meet with Reggie and get Nintendo to support it. So what I said is, like, I put my money up, but it was kind of an informed position in that everyone kind of had backed me and said, hey, we believe in you doing this. So it wasn't me just kind of like, spending a bunch of money helping people to show up. It's like I kind of knew that, like, I said to myself, if I could get all the top companies to sort of endorse and believe and join this advisory board to build this show, then I felt it was kind of a rational choice to like risk this money and put on a show. So yeah, I was fearful of it. And, the first year, we put that show together really quickly, and we did it in Vegas, and Britney Spears lent us her theater because I couldn't even afford, to build a stage. And we called Britney and said, hey, it's your week off. Will you give us your Pieces of Me sort of stage? And she's like, yeah, I'll take the fire ring away, but you can have the screens and the lights. And so, yeah, we did it. And, these shows, you never know what's going to happen until they happen. And I remember in the final week, then we heard, Kiefer Sutherland wants to come, and Trey Parker wants to come, and the Imagine Dragons are willing to do something with Koji Kondo. And that all happened in like the final 2 or 3 weeks of the show. So these shows, like even now, Summer Game Fest is 3 weeks away. And I spent most of the day talking to companies about what we're going to do and what we're not going to do. And like things are still being negotiated and talked about. So these shows are right down to the wire. So yeah, it was a super scary year doing that. I'm really proud that I made the decision to do it. But I think
went from 2 million streams, now 103 million streams last year.
Yeah, it's crazy. And that's, obviously the macro sort of environment is that everyone's moving towards streaming. I remember when I pitched that show in 2014, a lot of people said to me, you're crazy. How can you, you're not doing this on television? Like, how's that going to work?
Right.
And I just believe that, streaming was sort of the future. And it's really cool now that, we build this show, my team and I, and there's no network. We just do it ourselves, and we work with the game companies, and it's great. And I don't have to sit in a room with a bunch of executives telling me who to book or saying that, this trailer is not good enough. I really just kind of build the show I want to build.
By the way, you asked earlier, Jaffe, why gabbing games and not making games? Exact same reason. You think I want to fucking sit in a room with a bunch of marketing PR people and ask and get approvals to spend $250 million every fucking week? No. The freedom, the freedom.
Yeah, but I would say, look at, now more than ever, I look at, like Supergiant that we revealed Hades with, and those guys, they don't answer to anybody. They're 20 people that make a killing, make an amazing game. So I feel like more than ever, don't you think you could build it yourself and not have to go through the traditional studio system?
If I went at that scope, but I'm over it. I'm over it. It's just not fun anymore.
But why? But we miss you. I feel like
I'm here.
I love that you're doing
every
this
day, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, at 2 o'clock.
But do you think your contribution to the industry now, doing this show, you think is as important as like building God of War, that IP that moved us and loved us emotionally?
I think it's probably more important, honestly. Because
what you're doing now is more important than creating God of War.
Well, it's hard to say because you know how it goes. And I've talked about this before. I've been stunned at how the work you do kind of in a mental vacuum. You're just following your muse, whatever, connecting with a lot of people, and they come back and they talk about how grateful they are. So with this, I get to talk to people every day. I get to talk to them live about something we love and share and debate. Right. And I think there's a more genuine connection I have with them. But anyway,
you think you can make a living off this though?
I don't know. You tell me. You're the fucking expert at this shit. What do you think? How am I doing? I hope.
Well,
so.
I think you're doing well. I miss your creativity in the industry, right? Because I think that's one thing that a Jaffe game was what you did with God of War, made such a contribution to the industry, and I think now, I think it's a good thing you can do, and I love that you're bringing the community together, talking about games. I think we miss your design vision, right? And I think a lot about game creators, like generation after generation that continue to create, continue to build things. And you obviously experimented with, calling out cars, other, kinds of games and things like that. And I love that you were evolving who you were. You weren't like, I'm making God of War for the rest of my life.
Right.
And I always admired that about you. But yeah, I think now like this idea of doing conversation with creators and other folks is great. And obviously, you're somewhat controversial too, right? Which I think people sort of, appreciate that you're unfiltered.
I don't mean to be. I just don't like horseshit. I have to ask you that. So how do you do it? I mean, is it because I have no executive functioning skills. I'm not joking. I have terrible ADD. I take medicine for it. But with you, is it just like, you navigate these waters so well, and that it seems like your eye is always on what trailers can I show at my two shows? And I'm willing to pretty much take my own views and maybe this is a wrong read on you, but is that, do you go home at night and just smoke out or punch a punching bag or, how you've got to be shoving your own personal stuff down. And at the same time, that's business, right? Is that what drives you? You're able to do it because your eye is on the prize or what?
Yeah, look, I think it's a good question, and it's something I certainly think about of kind of my role in the industry and, what's the right position to be in and what's the right way to navigate all this stuff. I certainly, I miss the old days of being able to kind of interview executives and, like the Don Matrick interview from E3 and, those types of things. Like I love doing interviews, right? And I really miss that. I've been saying that to a lot of my friends lately that like, actually kind of would love to maybe do a podcast at some point or get more into that. I think, the honest answer is, yeah, Game Awards, I definitely sort of stopped doing a lot of that sort of commentary around games. And I have to be, I'm conscious that I'm in a really unique position now running, especially something like Game Awards. And, like people often mistakenly assume that I like pick the winners, or it's like, why is Keighley, why has Xbox never won Game of the Year? Why doesn't Keighley let them win? And it's like, I have nothing to do with that. But the thing is, because on the face of the show, there's a perception that, I am sort of, driving a lot of that. So I'm hyper conscious now of in the position we're in with the scale of audience that we have, that I have to be sort of careful to be sort of remove myself from some of those conversations just to not, reinforce that view that somehow, I'm the guy deciding all these things. So yeah, I definitely have pulled back a little bit from sort of, I mean, I haven't reviewed games in a long time, right?
Sure.
And I still play games, and but I'm careful about that, because if I say this is my favorite game of the year, somehow that's going to translate to like, oh, that's going to win game of the year or not. So I'm just conscious of, how important Game Awards is to the industry, and how honored I am to be in that position, that I have to be careful.
Right.
I think as the show has gotten bigger, I hope over time that I'll be able to go back and do some of that stuff. And I have talked about the idea of going back and doing more interviews and more commentary, because I miss it. And I think there's, a lot of like what you're doing, and having conversation around games. I think there should be more of that. Yeah. There's, I feel like you have to, like anything in life, you have to sort of pick your battles. And
that's what I'm saying. So it's hard, but your goal is more important than dealing with the difficult not commenting. Okay. What about okay, I mean, that's fair. The like, I know the Activision thing was kind of controversial, where it was the whole, I mean, I'm fascinated by that whole thing, because I don't care, and I don't want to know, and I'm not asking how rich you are or how poor you are. It's none of my business. I don't care. But there's a point where clearly you're doing okay with this incredibly successful show. Where's the line, though? Like, I know, with the Bobby Kotick thing and the Activision thing, and there was the whole story that, and I loved it. I remember streaming it. I was high, but I remember that part where you were just kind of like, made it clear that we may nominate their games and award their games, but they're not participating in the show. And then it turned out later that that was sort of a co-agreement between Activision and the Game Awards. So whether it's a company that's kind of been put through the ringer with some of their behavior, or a company like Tencent, or no one's hands are clean. But it's like, where do you get to the point where you say that's too far for me? It's like, I want the best games on my show. But I mean, is that something you struggle with? Because I wouldn't be able to do it. I would just say, I'd love Call of Duty's new trailer, but a woman killed herself because they sent pictures of her vagina around the fucking office. I mean, how do you square that? And where's the line?
Yeah, well, you said it's an extremely complicated, nuanced thing, and it's also constantly changing, right? And that year with Activision, that was a point in time where you said a lot of bad stuff had come out, and there was no agreement with Activision. I think it was just sort of but we talked about it, and it wasn't like I just decided, I'm going to say this. It's like, hey, this is the right thing for the industry, and I was talking to everyone across the industry about that, right? And it's something that we're constantly navigating. So yeah, you can't you can't make a rule set of like, here are the 4 things that, are, checklist of how you're going to approach these things. It's kind of like real-time navigating. And I wasn't, after all that exercise, I was curious, like the next year, what was going to happen? Would people stop playing their games, right? Would the storefronts take down their
nothing
games,
has changed, right?
Well, and it's sort of a thing is like, I get that the position we're in and the audience that we have, I think it's important to, recognize that and think about this stuff. And yeah, this is stuff, I mean, this is what keeps me up at night, right? Is debating the best way to navigate this stuff, but it's really complicated. And, we're one part of the story, but as I said, it's like consumers can vote with their dollars and with what they play. Platforms can decide, do they distribute these games? And it's like, so it's, everyone has to decide what's the right way to navigate. I didn't know what was going to happen the next year with Activision games. And then people seem to be fine, still playing Call of Duty and releasing games, talking about games. And the company, I think, to its credit, I think is like, tried to make changes. And so, but, I go into this with anything like the awards. People always say to me, it's like, when are you going to decide to, disqualify this company because of the working practices of this studio? Or, it's like, there's just so many layers to look at here.
And it's easy to act like you're taking the high road when you're someone like me. But the more I think about it, like, you could take all of Activision's games off because you're like, that's bad. But then even, there are so many millions of people who get release and joy and escape from those games that have nothing to do with Bobby Kotick. And it's like, okay, well, is that the battle you want to fight? But you take away the ability to sort of highlight something that may really bring them joy.
Well, and also
it's an impossible question.
Right. And also you think of the developers that, worked on those games.
Yeah.
And, there are lots of great people that, was an artist, a texture artist on a Call of Duty game that did amazing work. And, they had super legit and great. So they're in an organization which might be rotten, but they're doing great work. So it's like, do you then eliminate their work from being nominated for an award. And yeah, and you look at one company and you say, how do you start to adjudicate this, right? We say like, hey, well, this one company is, this happened, but that doesn't mean that it didn't happen somewhere else. And then it's like, well, what about Ubisoft and their issues, and how do you navigate that? And then it comes out 3 months later that, something is uncovered at a company, and then you go retroactively back and remove their awards. So look, I like, this is all the stuff we think about. I think I'm just, you have to be mindful of the situation and think about it. And you can't, as I said, have like a rule book of how you handle this. And I get I'm in a position of power to, to be the change and affect the change. But as you said, it's a very complicated matrix of stuff that we are, constantly navigating. The Oscars, you probably read, is like talking about doing like a diversity rider, where in the future, like movies, like, won't be able to be nominated unless they have, a certain percentage of.
I have not read that. That seems a little goofy to me. But that's just me.
That's been talked about, and
but it's like in the right place. But I think it's a goofy solve. But
yeah. Well, that's why it's just really hard to figure out, like, do you navigate that, and what role do we have in adjudicating and sort of going in and actually investigating these things at certain studios? Because I said, some of the smaller studios, have a lot of issues too, and they're not reported on as widely. And it's a very complicated thing. So I don't mean to sort of skirt it in any way. It's just something we have to like constantly navigate.
Gotcha.
And we'll always face, right. And it's sort of, I know some people will say, hey, we're not doing a good enough job, or you should have eliminated all these games. So yeah, it's I hear the question, and it's something that like weighs on me heavily. We're just sort of trying to navigate this. Maybe people have ideas. Like, I'm always reading the forums and reading the commentary around this stuff.
Do you think you get a fair shake in the industry? I mean, in the forums. Like, I know I go on NeoGAF or Twitter, and sometimes people are kind of, they're not nice. I mean, they're not nice to me either, but that's the internet. But I mean, do you think like you?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Good. All right.
Yeah. I mean, I read all the comments, and like, look, people are fair, and yeah, I have a pretty thick skin, having done this for many decades, and we read the feedback, and I understand it, and I really try and listen to what people are saying. So yeah, I don't find it unfair. I think everyone's entitled to their sort of perspective and opinion. And if people say like, hey, this show wasn't great, what I will say is, when they kind of beat you down, then when they bring you back up, it means that much more. And like last year, I think people thought Game Awards was really great, and people really enjoyed it.
I hate award shows, but I love the Game Awards show. Like, I think I hate DICE. I hate them all because I think it's a ridiculous concept to vote for creativity. But your show, though, is a great fucking show. We watch it every year. I was bothered last year you didn't have cooler tennis shoes. 2 years ago, those fucking blue shoes blew my fucking mind. Last year was just some shoes. I don't like it. Listen, Geoff.
Talk to my stylist.
I will. I don't like it. Kojima,
I got to bounce in a minute here, Jaffe.
Okay, I'm going to do quick. Is Kojima and Death Stranding going to be there at your show? Death Stranding 2.
At which show?
Yours, Summer Game Fest.
Oh, we haven't, nothing to talk about right now. In terms of
okay, I'm going to go. This is yes, no, maybe. Here we go. Speed round. Ready? Can you change? Okay, yeah, let's do it. Change the Game Awards so that every category you list out the percentage of voting. So I know that Ragnarok was 5% away from winning Elden Ring's trophy last year. Why not show me where the votes are? Yes, no, or maybe. I don't need an answer. I just want
no.
Damn you, Geoff Keighley. Give the audience vote for all awards so I can know what the audience voted on exclusively and compare it with what the pros voted on. Yes, no, maybe.
No.
God damn you, Geoff. Kill esports. Nobody cares about it, and put fun categories in like best new character, best horror game. I mean, best esports coach.
Maybe.
Really? Yeah, you goddamn right. Speeches more than 5 minutes long. Bring out the living jar from Elden Ring to roll them off the stage. Maybe. Art. Last two things. I'm not even fucking with you. Your art direction category is broken. Your game direction category is broken. Can I tell you why? It's very simple. It's ridiculous. Your category means nothing. Your current definition for game direction is game direction awarded for outstanding creative vision and innovation in game design and direction. Those are two very different things. The game design of Tears of the Kingdom is brilliant, and it should probably get that award. Game direction is a totally different thing. Art direction, outstanding creative and or technical. Well, are you voting for the best looking game like Horizon, Burning Shores? or are you voting for the most interesting visual artistic vision? Both of those categories are confused, and you're asking people to vote too many things. Yes, no, maybe, fix it.
That. Maybe.
Okay. Last two questions.
Last question. How you said last two last time.
I got it. I know. Hideo Kojima.
Yep.
What have you done to piss him off? Like, he's your good friend, but what's the one thing you've done that's pissed Kojima off?
Yes, no. I thought it was yes, no, or maybe.
Have you ever pissed Hideo Kojima off?
Maybe.
You don't know. Geoff Keighley, thank you, buddy. Listen, I would really
question sometimes, like kind of what your motivation is for doing it, and sort of, like I think I do know what your motivation is. Like, I think you want to just sort of get to the heart of the matter of what's really going on in the industry. But yeah, like I look, the gaming industry, it's like it's a situation where I think people still are careful about what they say about things, right? And I love that you are unfiltered. I just think your talents are, you're an incredible, game designer and director, and someone that I remember, VGAs when you're up there winning.
What you're saying is I will never win Content Creator of the Year. I appreciate the honesty. Thank you for that.
It could happen, but I think I would love to, we'd love to have you back in the industry, making great stuff and making a real, a big contribution to the industry beyond this, where you could still do this and maybe you could make a game as well.
All right.
But I think you're someone that deserves success in the industry, and did well.
Yeah,
but I'm
great.
looking at. I was going to say, well enough that you can still do this and not really have to worry about.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
Things. So it's like, I hope you're happy. Are you happy, Geoff?
I am actually happier now than I've ever been working in my life. This is so much more fun. What about you?
Good.
You're funny because on TV, you in your public persona, and I don't count this as that. And this is the real Keighley, folks. This seems like a nice, happy, healthy guy who probably has a therapist. I do. I mean, I love therapy. You need one.
Nothing against it. Thank you.
No, yeah. But on TV, you're so stoic. Let me ask you this. If you got sick, who would you call in? If you got sick and could not host the Summer Game Fest, who's the number one guy you'd call? I know me, but besides me, who would you call?
Probably Kyle Bossman, who works on our team. He's
okay.
The guy
he
who
hates
worked for
me.
me.
I know who he is.
Kyle.
He hates me, but I know who he is. And then digital rights. When you die, will you scan yourself and let this continue as an I'm not even fucking with you, as an avatar?
Yeah.
You would.
Sure. I'm down.
Excellent. Excellent. Geoff Keighley, have fun at the show tonight. Thank you very much. I really would love to talk to you when you get like a long downtime. We could go for 3 hours. I don't know if you'd want to, but I do. I want to dig deep, baby. Thank you, Geoff Keighley.
Go deep. Jaffe, thank you so much. It's always a pleasure to have you.
You too, man.
On me. Talk soon, brother.
I'm sorry, did you say it's always a pleasure to have me on you?
Yep, exactly.
Okay, I'll send you the PayPal after this. We'll get something, we'll arrange something. All right, see you, Geoff. Bye, buddy.
See you, brother. Take care. Bye.